correctly. When you write pages for your website and you talk about what you do, if you're a personal injury lawyer or you practice personal injury law, you want to make sure that you're talking to the people who are searching. So you don't want to title your personal injury page personal injury law, because people who are searching are looking for a personal injury lawyer in whatever city and state you live in. So the content should talk about that you are a personal injury law firm, that here's what you can do for them, these are past results that you've had for other clients. You have to sell them on your expertise and why they need to go with you. Long, 1,000-word pages talking about, the law itself is not something that people are interested in. They want to know, are you capable of helping them win the case? Why should we go with you? How many years of business how many years has your practice been around? How many lawyers do you have? What's your record? What's the recent cases that you won? These are things that are important to people. And you guys need to remember that and keep that in mind when writing content for your pages. Now, we talked earlier about keywords, and Google has, over the last several years, taken away the ability to know what keywords our pages rank for. Sure, we have tools that we can, if we know what the keywords are, we can run a ranking report and see where you are. However, you could be missing out on keywords that you may be ranking for. And so if you claim your site with Search Console by either going there, signing up, and putting a meta tag in your website, or HTML file on your server, or you can verify through, in most cases, through your hosting company, Google will then give you access to the data that it has on your website. This includes any issues, crawl errors. It will also show if there's any broken pages. It will show you if it has any trouble with your site, server issues, things of that nature. It will also show you keywords that your site ranks for. Now, this is important for a few reasons. The first reason is it's going to give you access to what Google sees. And you can see some of the keywords, some pages that might be ranking for terms that you were unprepared for or haven't planned for, and you want to kind of cross-reference that with your ranking report. So if you saw in Search Console that you were ranking for top personal injury lawyer in New York, but that's not a term that you were ranking for, but then you look into Search Console and saw that you had 20 clicks on it, and you were on position 2, then it might be something that you want to invest on improving. Or if you see that maybe your site's showing up for a lawyer that was with your firm years ago but isn't there anymore, you may want to leverage that a different way. You may want to redirect that page. You may want to just do something else with it when you come across pages that rank for terms that you don't want to rank for or are not relevant to what you're trying to rank for. And then you'll also be able to see in Search Console if you have any manual penalties, if you've been flagged for any issues. But also it's where you can go and give Google a XML sitemap of your site, and this will give you feedback from Google. So you give Google a sitemap, they crawl it, and if there's any issues, they'll come back and say we couldn't access the site. There's 404 errors. There's a problem with your server. Things are timing out. This is important to do. This is one of the first things that we do when we start working in Search Console, is to give them an XML sitemap. Now, this is not to say that if your site's very large, that if you just feed Google a sitemap, that's all you need to do and the site will rank. That's not the case. That's something that worked 10 years ago, but nowadays, if Google can't crawl the site through your main navigation or sub-navigations, there's less likely a chance that it's going to rank. So if Google can only find it through a sitemap and not through the site itself, you're probably not going to rank for that page, I should say, will not rank. So when we talk about keywords, again, so let's go through the steps. You're tracking keywords already. you've gone to Search Console and you pulled some keywords that you just discovered. You put them in your ranking report, and you see what pages rank them. And then you notice one page has gotten 100 visits. Now what you do is you take a look at that page in analytics, and you see how people engage with that page. If 100 people came into that page because Google's telling you in Search Console that 100 people clicked on this keyword, now you've identified the keyword, and now you've identified the page through your ranking tool. Now you can go and look at the metrics of that page. Is there a lot of time spent on that page? Are people engaging with it? Are they filling out the forms? Is there a high bounce rate? If there's a high bounce rate, it could mean a sign of that the keyword is not relevant to what the user is expecting to find on the page, or it could be that the landing page layout is not providing the user with what they need. But in order to make any of those, so some, can come to a conclusion on what that is, you have to look at the data and see how people engage with it. If it's a low bounce rate, then or there's a high bounce rate, but there's long time spent on site. It could be they've gotten to your website, landed on that page, picked up the phone, and called and spoke to someone, and then left. If the bounce rate is low and there's lots of conversions, that means that they're interacting with that page and the page is delivering what they want, the information they need, and then they take an action. So all of this is important things to remember. The second thing here is NAP consistency, and NAP is local SEO, and we talk about NAP as name, address, phone number of your business. This is where many law firms run into issues because you're a small law firm, you have only one office, but on Google My Business you have Suite 101. On Yelp, you have number 101. Another, Apple Maps, you have 101 only. And so how Google confirms a business is it goes out and looks at all these citation sites, and they try to gather information to say, like, is this an actual business? Is this a real law firm? And is our office really at this address? And if there's conflicting information, if you're using floor spelled out on one listing and FLR on another listing, you can run into issues. And it's not always the law firm that does it. Sometimes, these directories, they scan the web and they find the address and they just put it up there from wherever they found it. And then it's up to you to kind of get it cleaned up. And not getting it cleaned up could affect how you're ranking in the map listings. For law firms that have more than one location, this becomes even more difficult because some law firms feel they need to put all of their locations on their homepage and say, well, here's this location, here's that location. You can call here's all of our locations. But what we find that works the best is that each law firm location has its own page. So you have one page for your New York office, you have another page for your New Jersey office, another page for your Connecticut office, and you talk about the firm. You have a little map up there that gives directions, list the lawyers that are in that particular office, their firms, what they practice, put a photo of the office, any information, because when you start building your citations, you don't want all of your citations going to the homepage. You want it to be clear that these citations for New Jersey go to this page. This is the page about this Jersey location, and that's going to help you not only show up in maps better, but it's also going to help you show up locally in organic search. So NAP is very, very important, and there's lots of tools out there that can do it. You can go with Yext. There's other firms out there or other agencies that do stuff. However you do it, it's important that you get that done and making sure that it's as consistent as possible. PPC management. This is my favorite part when it comes to law firm marketing, because here is where we as an agency make the biggest impact, because law firms spend a lot of money in PPC, but they're not tracking all of these elements. They're not tracking conversions. They're not tracking which keywords are producing more phone calls. And so there's a lot of wasted spend. And so for us to come in, we can make drastic changes very quickly because we identify keywords that are spending money but not producing. Are you running your ads 24 hours a day, but you only have people 9-10 hours a day in the office answering the phone? You don't have an answering service, you're maybe wasting money there. Do you have enough budget? Is your budget, have you gone through your daily budget before the afternoon even hits, and now you're missing potential business because you've run out of budget? And you could have run out of budget maybe because you're spending money on keywords that aren't producing anything, or you haven't added any negative terms, so you're showing up for terms that are not really relevant to what you offer, and you need to kind of fine-tune that. So there's a lot of areas of improvement, and we've actually created a free PPC audit for law firms that really want to see how well their performance is on PPC and if there are areas of improvement. There's a link in the presentation you can click and go visit. I'll make this available for download. And there's no obligation. We don't charge you anything. You take the information and do the work yourself. It's just there as a tool to show you that there is area of improvement, because a lot of law firms and law firms in general are very competitive, and it's a lot of money involved, and we really don't like to see clients wasting money, because it's frustrating and it's confusing, and there's a lot of things that go on in search. You have to constantly change ads, do AdWord testing, and there's banner ads, remarketing. The list goes on and on. But we want to offer a service where at least you can get the information and you can decide to do it yourself. And again, here in the presentation, you see we talk about search query report, which is important because that shows you exactly what keywords people are seeing your ads on. So you may be advertising on the term personal injury lawyer, and you're targeting people in New York, but someone may be typing in pro bono personal injury lawyer, and then your ad shows up, and then they call you, and then you've spent 30, 20, 40 bucks for that click for someone to inquire about something that you don't offer. And so it's important to go through that search query report and get that information. So PPC, very important. And the good thing is, if you're a new firm and you have a little bit of budget, you can start getting inquiries and clients right away, because you don't have to wait for SEO to kick in or your local map listings to kick in. And I spoke about this, is tracking calls. So I'll give you a good example of call tracking and why it's important. Real world example, a client calls and says, I'm not getting enough calls. I'm not sure, we made some changes in our PPC, but our conversions are okay on the website, in AdWords, but the calls have stopped. Now, if you're not tracking your calls, somebody could have typed in personal injury lawyer, landed on your website and picked up a phone, but since they didn't fill out a form, AdWords is not reporting it. And so on paper, it looks as if you spent a bunch of money, you didn't get a conversion, but now you've turned that keyword off, and now the calls have stopped because maybe, personal injury, somebody gotten hurt, and they're more likely to pick up the phone and call than to fill out the form because they want to talk to someone right away. So if you're not tying your calls to your advertising, then you're wasting money. And you can do that with anything. You can do that with referral traffic. You can do, if you put an ad in a publication, you can put a tracking number in that ad, and then you'll be able to track those calls. So call tracking, especially for PPC management, is the biggest thing that you can do to help improve the ROI on your advertising budget on AdWords, or Bing for that matter. Mobile visibility.